Last month, my family pressured me to sign over my $8 million inheritance. It all felt wrong. I was 35, and I'd just lost my parents in a tragic accident. I came back to my childhood home to sort through their things. The house felt strange and foreign. Everything was covered in dust, and the garden was overgrown. It reminded me of old memories I wished I could forget. The first night was hard. I tried to sleep, but the silence felt thick. I closed my eyes, but I couldn't drift off. I went through old family photos, each image whispering fragments of the past. I slept poorly, waking up to the faintest creaking sounds. My mind was restless, always stuck on how much pressure my family put on me to settle the inheritance quickly. On the second night, I stumbled over some loose floorboards while moving around. I found a dusty file labeled The Will. My heart raced as I opened it. Inside were letters written by my parents. They felt like secrets. I wanted to know what they were hiding. As I read them, an eerie sensation washed over me. It felt like I was being watched. When a gust of wind hit the window, I shivered. Strange things started happening after that. I could have sworn the portrait of my parents on the wall shifted slightly. Their painted eyes seemed to follow me. I shook my head, telling myself it was just my imagination. But that flicker of heat crawled down my spine, making me shiver again. At night I heard muffled voices. I kept telling myself it was nothing. Maybe animals in the attic. I stood in the dark, my heart racing. I didn't want to believe anything was wrong. I tried to focus on the letters again. They hinted at something dark, something I couldn't fully grasp. Were my family members hiding something from me? The house felt alive with whispers I couldn't understand. I felt more like a visitor than a resident. I leaned against the wall as the lights flickered once more. A chill washed over me. I heard whispers again. I asked if someone was there, but my voice faded into silence. Then I thought I caught the words. "It's time to know." My breath caught in my throat. What was it I was supposed to know? I turned slowly, feeling the air grow heavy around me. It felt like I was on the edge of a revelation. And then I heard footsteps behind me. I spun around and there was nobody there. My heart echoed in my chest as I felt dread coil inside me. I wanted to leave, to escape, but I was rooted to the spot. The house closed around me, trapping me in a web of mystery and fear. I didn't know what I was getting into, or why my family wanted me to sign that document so quickly. The night stretched on, heavy and endless. I was desperate to understand, but all I seemed to find were shadows and unanswered questions. I wished I had never come back. I tried to shake off the fear that gripped me, but it lingered like a shadow. The next morning I decided to go through the remaining boxes in the attic. Maybe I could find answers hiding among the dusty memory-laden artifacts. I climbed the staircase slowly, each step creaking underfoot, echoing my nervous energy. Once at the top, I flipped on the light. The bulb flickered, casting long shadows across the room. I moved toward a stack of boxes labeled with faded markers. They looked ancient and forgotten, much like the house itself. I opened the first box with trembling hands, revealing old clothes and toys from my childhood. I bit my lip, trying not to get lost in nostalgia. I pulled out a teddy bear with one eye missing. It brought back memories I wasn't ready to face. But I pushed through the discomfort and delved deeper. I searched through boxes of old books, family records, and photo albums. I was looking for something, anything, that could explain the secrets my parents had kept. After what felt like hours, I stumbled upon a small, unmarked envelope. It was tucked in the corner of the last box I opened. My heart quickened as I opened it. Inside were several photographs. They looked unusual. I held them up to the light. They seemed to capture events from my parents' lives, but each image felt off, somehow distorted. In one, my father was standing next to a man I didn't recognize. In another, my mother looked angry, her mouth set in a firm line as she faced someone off camera. Panic clawed at my stomach. Who was this man? And why did my parents seem so tense? I felt a chill creep down my spine. As I flipped through the photos again, a piece of paper slipped out. I caught it before it fell to the floor. It was another letter, but it looked worn, as if it had been read many times. My hands shook as I unfolded it. The handwriting was familiar, a mix of my mother's elegant script and my father's more hurried scrawl. They wrote about keeping secrets, about protecting family, and mentioned a name that sent cold fear through me. David. Who is David? I whispered, the name feeling heavy on my tongue. I'd never heard that name before. Just as I started to process this new piece of information, I felt it again, the sensation of being watched. I turned abruptly, scanning the attic. My chest tightened. I was sure I wasn't alone. Then, without warning, the light flickered and went out. Darkness enveloped me, thick and suffocating. My heart raced. I fumbled for the light switch, cursing under my breath. That's when I heard it. Whispers, soft and urgent. You shouldn't have looked. My breath quickened. Someone was in the house. The fear inside me exploded into adrenaline. I needed to get out of the attic and back downstairs, but the darkness felt alive and pressing. I was caught between curiosity and fear, but one thing was clear. I had to find out what my parents had left behind before it was too late. The darkness felt suffocating, the whispers brushing against my ears like cold fingers. Panic gripped me tighter. I forced myself to take a deep breath and move slowly toward the stairs, my hands shaking as I clutched the photographs and letter. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something, or someone, was right behind me. As I stepped cautiously toward the worn staircase, I froze. There was a soft creak. My heart thudded in my chest. I couldn't tell if it had come from the attic or somewhere below, but I knew I wasn't alone. The air seemed to thicken, pulsing with tension. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaky. The whispering ceased, but the silence felt even more menacing. I took another step and then another, my foot hovering over the first step of the staircase. I had to get out of there. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the attic, sending a shiver down my spine. I turned around, hoping to see a shadow, a glimpse of whatever was lurking in the darkness. Instead, I was met with nothing but an empty room, the light bulb above still dim. I took a shaky step down. The second staircase creaked louder, seeming to echo my fear. Just as I descended the first flight, the whispers returned, this time clearer, more insistent. "You shouldn't have looked. You'll regret it." I stumbled, nearly losing my balance. I gripped the banister tightly, my knuckles turning white. I had to keep moving. I had to escape the attic. I reached for the light switch again, praying it would come back on. In a moment of desperation, I turned the knob to the attic door and swung it open. My heart sank. The hallway was dark, completely devoid of light. I was stuck. "Why can't I just know?" I whispered to myself. "What did you keep from me?" I could feel that sense of being watched again, a weight pressing down on my back. I stepped out into the hallway, instinct screaming for me to run. But what if I missed something crucial? I had to find answers about David, about the secrets that had turned the seemingly perfect life of my parents into something so twisted. With newfound determination, I moved deeper into the house, drawing upon the last flickers of bravery I could muster. The photographs were still clenched in my hand, a physical reminder of the danger I was in. Just as I turned the corner to the living room, I heard it. A soft rustling, like paper being shuffled. My breath hitched. I pressed my back against the wall and listened. Someone was downstairs, in the living room. What were they looking for? Did they know about the letters and photographs? Then, the rustling stopped. An icy silence replaced it, and I knew something terrible was coming. I squeezed the photographs tighter, ready to confront whatever was hidden within my family's secrets. But as I peered around the corner, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A shadowed figure standing just inside the living room, facing away from me. The adrenaline surged again. They must have found out about the photos. They were looking for me. Or worse, for what I knew. Before I could think, I turned on my heel and raced back to the stairs. I would find out what was happening, and I would do it before it was too late. As I reached the first step, my feet stumbled over each other in a frantic rush. I had to get away, but my thoughts spun wildly. Had someone broken into the house? Were they really looking for me? Or just for something else? My heart raced as I made my way down, nearly slipping on the worn wood. The darkness below was thick, a shroud that clung to me. I listened for any sounds, footfalls, whispers, but it was eerily quiet. I gripped the banister tighter as I descended, every creak echoing in my ears. I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on me, watching, waiting for me to slip up. When I reached the bottom, I paused. The living room was cloaked in shadows, but I felt drawn in. The photograph and letter burned in my pocket, like a secret too heavy to carry. If I could find a light, I could see the figure out who it was, and maybe understand what was happening. I turned toward the kitchen, looking for a flashlight or something to illuminate the dark corners of the house. My hands brushed over countertops until I found a small drawer. I yanked it open but only found utensils. Frustrated, I slammed it shut and moved on. Now, standing in the doorway of the dim living room, I could feel the presence again. The weight of someone waiting for me to make a move. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, feeling the chill in the air grow thicker, wrapping around me like icy fingers. Then I heard it. A whisper, so low that I thought it was just my imagination at first. "You shouldn't have come here," it said, the words slipping through the darkness. "We didn't want you to know." Adrenaline surged. I was being cornered. I wanted to run, but I forced myself to stand still. "Who are you?" I called out, anger and fear pulsing in me. "What do you want?" The figure shifted slightly and I caught a glance of a face, familiar yet distorted by the shadows. My breath caught in my throat. It couldn't be. "David," I whispered, the name slipping from my lips. Memories flooded back, hiking in the woods, laughing around a campfire. But he had disappeared years ago. "Why are you here?" he said, his voice darker, more gravelly than I remembered. "You should have stayed away." My mind raced. This didn't make sense. "You're supposed to be gone." I thought. My heart began to race again. "What happened to you?" "I didn't have a choice," he replied with a tone both mournful and threatening. "You need to leave. They can't find you here." Before I could process his words, a loud crash echoed from the direction of the attic. I jumped, my instinct screaming at me to run. Had someone else come? "Go!" he urged, his voice urgent, filled with a strange mix of fear and determination. Without thinking, I pivoted back toward the hallway, the photographs pressed against my chest. I had to escape. Whatever secrets were hidden in this house were about to catch up to me, and I couldn't let them take me too. I sprinted down the hallway, my pulse echoing in my ears. The whispers of the past, reminders of David, haunted me. I shoved thoughts of him aside. I needed to focus. I reached the front door and rattled the handle. Locked. Panic twisted in my gut, and I hammered on the door with my fist. "Let me out!" I screamed. No response. I turned and spotted the kitchen window. If I could just break it. But then, a sound froze me in place. A slow, deliberate footstep from the living room. Someone was in the house. My heart raced again, fear clawing at my throat. I ducked behind the nearest corner, pressing my back against the wall, hoping to blend into the shadows. The footsteps grew closer, soft but distinct against the creaky hardwood. I held my breath, straining to hear. Someone was entering the kitchen. My mind reeled. Was it David's voice that warned me? Or was this someone else? I peeked around the corner. A silhouette moved through the dim light, the figure methodical and deliberate. I couldn't make out any features, but they were wearing a long coat, its edges brushing the ground. I shrank back, trying to fight the urge to flee. "What do you want?" I whispered to myself, the weight of silence almost crushing. Then something caught my eye. A shimmer on the floor, reflecting a bit of the moonlight. Was that the broken glass from the window? My breath quickened as I realized I had a choice. Wait here or try to find a way out through the kitchen. I edged closer to the door, letting my fingers trace along the wall, my heart pounding. But before I could decide, the figure spun around. Our eyes locked. Only a moment, but it felt like an eternity. "Who's here?" they called, their voice low, yet penetrating. I stumbled back, moving instinctively toward the kitchen. The figure followed, their presence an undeniable threat. My legs were on fire as I dashed past the kitchen island, my eyes darting for anything I could use. A weapon, a distraction, anything. Then I saw it. A knife set, gleaming under the faint light. I grabbed a knife instinctively, the cool handle grounding me, but it felt useless against this growing dread. "Show yourself!" the figure demanded, their voice now echoing with menace. Suddenly another crash came from above, louder this time. The attic? Something, or someone, was upstairs too. The chaos was escalating and I was stuck in the middle of it all. Before I could move, a sudden force slammed into my shoulder, pushing me against the counter. Panic surged. "Get away from me!" I shouted, struggling against the grip, but my voice fell flat against the tension in the air. Then everything went dark, as the figure's grip tightened and I felt the world slip from my fingers. When I came to, I was no longer in the kitchen. My body lay on a cold metal surface. I blinked, trying to adjust to the dim light filtering through a small window. My wrists were bound, the rough material biting into my skin. Panic twisted in my gut again, but I forced myself to stay calm. I needed to think. I tugged against the restraints, but they held tight. My senses sharpened as I scanned my surroundings. It looked like a basement. Dust clung to the rafters, and shadows danced along the walls with each flickering fluorescent light. The air was musty, filled with the metallic scent of something I couldn't quite place. Suddenly a door creaked open. My heart leapt into my throat. I pressed my back against the surface beneath me and peered toward the entrance. The figure stepped inside, the long coat blending into the darkness. My breath hitched as they approached, their silhouette towering and menacing. "Welcome back," they said, their voice smooth yet laced with an undercurrent of danger. "I was starting to think you wouldn't wake up." "Why are you doing this?" I managed to croak out, the sound raspy from what felt like ages of silence. "What do you want from me?" The figure chuckled softly, a sound that sent chills racing down my spine. "You hold something very valuable, don't you? Something that belongs to us." "Belongs to them?" The sense of dread coiling tighter in my stomach, I fought my growing unease. "I don't know what you mean. I don't have anything. Just let me go." They leaned closer, their face finally coming into view. A man with piercing eyes that seemed to see right through me. "You're too smart to play dumb. An inheritance like yours doesn't just disappear." A sudden wave of realization crashed over me. David's death, the pressure from my family, the money. Was that what this was all about? I felt sick. They must have known about the inheritance. "Who sent you?" I questioned, straining against the bonds. "You won't get away with this." He stepped back, tilting his head slightly. "Quite the contrary. This is just the beginning. Your family has been looking for you." My mind raced. I thought of my parents, my brother, the promises they made. Could they be involved? They wouldn't. They can't. My voice wavered as doubt crept in. He smiled, a chilling expression. "You'll soon learn just how far family loyalty stretches." Just then the sound of shuffling came from outside the basement door, and another figure appeared. This one smaller, and decidedly more frantic. My heart sank as I recognized my brother's voice. He was here too. "Let her go!" he shouted, but his voice was shaky, revealing his fear. The man in the coat shot me a glance, a wicked grin growing on his face. "It seems we have a guest. This just got interesting." My panic deepened. I couldn't let him take my brother. I needed to break free. I felt an urgent pull, a desperate need to escape not only for myself, but for him too. Then I noticed something on the floor, a glint of metal, a small tool, what looked like a screwdriver, just out of reach. But before I could react, the door slammed shut behind my brother, sealing our fates. "What have you done?" I cried out, fear surging through me. I had to act fast. I had to get out of this darkness, not just for me, but for us both. My brother's voice echoed in my mind, a desperate plea that I couldn't ignore. I had to find a way to free myself, to protect him. I focused on the screwdriver, stretching my fingers toward it, but it felt impossibly far away. The metal tool glimmered like a beacon of hope, just waiting for me. "Please don't hurt her," my brother shouted again, his voice wavering. Each word felt like a knife, twisting deeper into my resolve. I had to act swiftly. Ignoring the tightening binds on my wrists, I turned my body slightly. I could see the screwdriver just past my toes. If I could just inch closer. A few slow movements back and forth, and I managed to wiggle my wrist enough that the rough fabric began to bite less painfully into my skin. "Interesting family dynamics you've got here," the man in the coat said, amusement clear in his tone. He stepped back into the shadows, leaving me with only the glimmer of the screwdriver for comfort. I could hear my brother breathing heavily, the fear radiating off him like heat. "They're going to kill you, aren't they?" he said, his words a choked whisper. "I won't let that happen." I finally felt the cold steel of the screwdriver beneath my foot. With a quick flick, I managed to nudge it closer to me. The man was still listening, but the corner of the basement offered enough shadow that I might have a chance. "Hold on, Sam," I whispered, desperately focusing on the tool beneath my foot. I might have one chance to get it to my hands. I took a breath, using the panic to fuel my determination. Just as I lifted my foot, ready to snatch up the screwdriver, the basement door burst open. A figure stepped through, darker than the shadows around them, and I froze. My heart hammered louder than before. The newcomer grabbed my brother, yanking him backward. "What are you doing here?" they hissed, their voice sharp and angry. I recognized this voice. It was one of Mom's trusted associates. The man in the coat rolled his eyes with feigned annoyance. "You didn't say we had company. Well, how lovely. More souls to play with." I took the opportunity and thrust my foot out, finally grasping the screwdriver. The moment I felt its weight in my hand, adrenaline surged through my veins. I couldn't believe I had it. I had to stay alive and get us out of here. Then everything changed. The basement trembled as another figure appeared behind my undesired guest, whom I realized was a woman dressed in black. She looked familiar. "Enough of this," she said, her voice cold as ice. "We have orders. Get what we need from her and let's finish this." My heart dropped. Orders? What did she mean? My mind raced again with new fear as I realized it wasn't just my life at risk. It was my brother's too. The man in the coat turned his gaze back at me, a wicked smile spreading across his face. "It seems family loyalty is just the tip of the iceberg. You're in deeper trouble than you know." I clenched the screwdriver tighter, determination coursing through me. Somehow I had to buy us time. How could I stall them for just a moment longer? Then I remembered. "You want the inheritance? It's not in my name," I blurted out, hoping to bait them into revealing their plans. "You'll never get it." The room went quiet, their eyes narrowing on me. I didn't know if my words had struck a chord, or if they had only made things worse. But now I had their attention. And maybe that would make all the difference in the world. The silence hung heavy in the air, thick like fog. I could feel their eyes boring into me, searching for any crack in my facade. The man in the coat stepped forward, his expression shifting from amusement to something darker. "Not in your name," he repeated, his voice dangerously low. "What do you mean?" I swallowed hard, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I could see my brother's fearful eyes darting between us. "I don't know what you're talking about," I stammered, hoping to keep them guessing. "You're wasting your time. Go ahead and search." The woman in black shook her head, a sly smile creeping across her lips. "You've underestimated us. We know quite a bit about your family, and the inheritance." She leaned closer, her gaze piercing. "Tell me something. Do you really think you can avoid your fate? Because I can assure you we've come prepared." A chill ran down my spine. A sudden thought struck me. What if I told you I'm willing to negotiate? My voice was steady, surprising even myself. They didn't need to know how terrified I really was. "Zara has always been a clever one," the man in the coat commented with a smirk. "But cleverness won't save you, little girl. We want what you have, and you will give it to us." "I don't have anything," I snapped back, desperate to keep their attention on me. I glanced at the screwdriver in my hand. Just holding it felt like a small power surge, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. "Then why are you here?" The woman straightened, her tone suddenly crisp. "Why would you risk your life if you're not part of this?" I hesitated. Each second stretched painfully, but then an idea sparked. "I can help you find it," I blurted out, although I had no clue how. "I know things. Family secrets you wouldn't expect. But you have to let my brother go." The room grew tense with suspicion. My brother watched me, his eyes pleading. I regretted putting him in this position, but deep down I knew it was my last card. I had to play it. "Go on," the man in the coat said, crossing his arms. "We're listening." I took a deep breath, looking straight into his mocking eyes. "If I return to the family estate with you, I can help you access the documents and records you need. I'll do whatever it takes. Just let him go." The woman exchanged a glance with the man, and I could see the gears turning in their brains. It felt like bargaining with wolves, but desperation led me forward. "But you have to promise me he'll be safe," I added, wrapping my finger tighter around the screwdriver. "Or you won't get anything." A silence followed, stretching uncomfortably as they weighed their options. Finally, the man smiled, but it wasn't reassuring. "Deal. But understand this. If you deceive us..." His voice trailed off, leaving the threat hanging in the air. Before I could respond, the basement door creaked open again, this time revealing a tall figure cloaked in shadow. "Enough games," they said, their voice deep and commanding. I looked at the newcomers with dread. My heart sank. Something was about to shift, and I sensed I was running out of time. That's when I saw it. A glint of metal behind the new figure, something I hadn't noticed before. A knife. My breath hitched. In that moment, things became clear. I hadn't just signed a deal for my life. I had unwittingly stepped into a deadly game where my very survival depended on a fragile thread. What had I just unleashed? My mind raced for an escape route as the new figure leaned forward. Their face was obscured, but I could feel the weight of their presence. The room pulsed with tension. I could see the woman in black glancing nervously at the newcomer. Her earlier confidence wavered. "Let her brother go," the figure commanded, and I could feel my brother stiffen beside me. "She doesn't belong in this. We don't need to watch you play your games." The man in the coat took a step back, his expression shifting to annoyance. "And who exactly are you to dictate terms?" "I'm the one who brings decisions to the table," the figure replied coolly. "We'll take your deal, Zara, but I want more than just documents. There are truths buried deep within your family history that need to be unearthed." What did that mean? My heart raced as the implications sank in. I had no idea what secrets lay tangled in my family's past. The woman in black looked at me with an odd mixture of disdain and curiosity. "An interesting proposition," she said, her voice smooth but laced with danger. "But do you really trust them?" I turned to the newcomer. "What do you want from me?" "Everything," they said flatly. "And your protection is conditional. Failure to deliver means the boy suffers." I shivered at the threat. My brother didn't deserve this. I didn't want him to be a pawn in their twisted game. "No, he's not part of this," I insisted. The figure in shadow stepped closer, and I caught a glimpse of a sharp edge flash under the dim light. "You've involved him whether you like it or not. Your fate is entwined with his until this concludes." It felt like a noose tightening around my throat. How could I back out now? My brother looked at me, his eyes wide, and I saw the fear mirrored in my own reflection. "Zara, please," he murmured, desperation cracking his voice. "Then you need to tell me everything you know." I shot back, more certain than I felt. "I need to understand what I'm dealing with." They regarded me for a moment, then nodded. "Very well. But first we need to move. The longer we stay here, the more eyes will linger. The stakes are bigger than you think." I could feel the weight of their words seep into my bones. What had I gotten my family into? Before I could follow up with more questions, the man in the coat's eyes narrowed. "Fine, we'll play your way. But you better not waste our time." He turned on his heel, and the woman in black followed, shooting me one last look that sent shivers down my spine. "Let's go," the figure said as they beckoned me forward. I grabbed my brother's hand, feeling the warmth of his fingers, a tether to my sanity amidst the chaos. I had to protect him. As we stepped towards the door, my throat ran dry. A shadow followed us from behind, and I could feel the weight of their gaze press upon my back. The basement stairs creaked ominously as I took my first step towards the unknown. What awaited us outside could change everything. Anxiety gnawed at my gut as a sense of dread unfurled. I hadn't just agreed to play a game. I had plunged into a labyrinth of power struggles and buried secrets that threatened to swallow us whole. And the truth was, I was terrified and vulnerable, teetering on the edge of a precipice where one misstep could shatter my world. But I had no choice now. My brother's safety depended on it. "Zara," my brother whispered, pulling me back for a moment. What if they're lying? I didn't have an answer. Before I could respond, the basement door slammed shut behind us, sealing our fate within these walls. I hadn't just stepped into another world. I had stepped into a web of darkness where my family's past was waiting to be unveiled. And now, I was at the center of it all. I bolted toward the front door, dragging my brother with me. Each second felt like an eternity as I pushed against the overwhelming anxiety clawing at my throat. My heart raced, fueled by a mix of fear and determination. We had to escape, but I could still feel the specter of that man in the coat looming behind us, his chilling laughter echoing in my head. Just as we reached the front door, it swung open. I froze. A figure stood silhouetted against the dim light spilling from the porch outside. "Going somewhere?" they asked, a predatory edge in their voice. It was a woman, but not just any woman. The same one from the basement, her piercing gaze locking onto me, sending a spark of recognition through my veins. "Zara, we need to go," my brother whispered frantically. "Shut it, kid!" she barked, stepping closer. The shadows danced around her, amplifying her intimidating presence. "You think you can just waltz out after everything you've stirred up?" I hesitated, instantly recalling the darkness that collected in the basement, the whispered warnings, and the unrelenting grip of dread that had lingered since I first set foot in that house. What had I opened myself up to? "Let us pass," I managed to say, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. "We didn't mean to intrude in your games." Her lips curled into a mocking smile as she arched an eyebrow. "Games? You're far past that, sweetheart. You should understand what you're tangled in. You think you can bargain your way out?" Just in time, I sensed movement from beyond her. David's shadow flickered back to life, his face painted with urgency. "Zara! Now!" he shouted. I didn't have to think. I shoved my shoulder into the door, bursting past the woman who staggered slightly in surprise. David was already outside, and I sprinted after him, my brother close behind. I didn't dare look back as we tore across the porch and stepped onto the overgrown path leading away from the house. The garden felt alive, the tangled vines reaching out toward us as if trying to pull us back. Each breath stung my throat. I didn't know if we were safe or if the dread was merely building behind us, waiting for the right moment to strike. "Where do we go?" my brother gasped, glancing between me and David, who was scanning the dark trees lining the property. "Follow me," David urged, his voice firm but laced with fear. We plunged into the dark, weaving between the trees, the branches snagging at our clothes. I could hear the whispers again, but now they were distant echoes. The house faded behind us, swallowed by the darkness that enveloped the woods, but I couldn't forget. The face of the woman, the pressure bearing down on me. I could still feel the weight of the promises I had involuntarily made, the anxious promises I had traded for my brother's safety. After what felt like an eternity, we stumbled into a clearing bathed in moonlight. The anxiety began to morph into something else, an uncertain hope. Here perhaps we could catch our breath and gather our thoughts. "Where are we?" my brother panted, glancing around as if expecting the shadows to rush back and reclaim us. "A safe space," David replied, his eyes darting. "They won't come here. Not if I'm right." "Who exactly are you?" I asked, piecing together the frayed memories between foggy recollections of campfires and laughter that now felt hauntingly distant. Enough about me. We were family friends, but I got involved in something that... He hesitated, pain flickering across his face. I can help you. But first, you need to listen carefully. I don't get it. Why would you risk everything to help us? I shot back, desperation clawing at my throat. The uncertainty clawed at my mind, wrapping around my fears with a vice grip. Because it's not just about your inheritance, David said, his voice steadying. Your family's part of something bigger, something dark. The truth is... A rustle interrupted us, and I turned instinctively, a spear of ice shooting through my veins. I felt it, the watchful presence returning, drawing closer. I never should have let you leave. A voice purred from the tree line. The woman, the one from the basement, stepped out, her smile chilling in the moonlight. Get back! I shouted, pulling my brother behind me, fear sparking a raw power within as I gripped the memories of the screwdriver in my pocket. David leaped forward, an outstretched hand urging her to stop. Stay back! You won't get her! Do you really think you can protect them? She laughed softly. This is bigger than you, and you shouldn't have shown your face. As the fear wrapped itself tighter around my throat, I realized this wasn't just a haunting. It was a conflict of depth and mystery, secrets lurking just beneath the surface. The stakes had escalated, but I was still standing. Questions continued to flurry through my mind. What secrets were brewing beneath my family's legacy? And would I ever truly escape this dark world I'd stepped into? But then, looking at my brother, something settled in my chest. I couldn't let fear consume me. Not when hope flickered like a dying ember in the moonlight. Whatever awaited us in the depths of our family's secrets, we would navigate it together. Despite the darkness closing in, I knew this was just the beginning. With my brother by my side, I took a step closer to the shadows, ready to face whatever was to come. My heart raced. Uncertainty tumbled through my mind. But I wouldn't turn back. Not now. Not ever.